So those of you who are on the call or on the webinar right now, you saw that we are recording this evening's session, and we will send that out along with the slide deck. But the purpose of this webinar is to share some information with the family members of the athletes and unified teammates, as well as the athletes and unified teammates themselves for anyone who joins us tonight, and then also make it available for others to look at a later time. My name is Steve Bennett. I'm the Senior Director for Sports and Competition here at Special Mix Maryland. And we also have Mike Sarnowski, our Vice President of Sports for Special Mix Maryland here at the state office. So Mike will be looking for any questions that come through the chat function. So if you have questions, please don't unmute yourself. Just put it in the chat, and Mike will address that and also stop me if it's something that's important. Well, all questions are important to one degree or another, but if it's something that's good for the group or is a pertinent topic to a slide or information we're talking about at the time, we may stop just to address that for everyone's purposes. So once again, we thank you for taking time tonight. Looking forward to another great event in our Winter Games, where the dunk is happening a day or two before our Winter Games, but at WISP, we've been working really hard there. We also want to acknowledge our friends at Whitetail who were able to provide a on-snow training for Alpine. So we'll go ahead and
before we go any further, I don't know if you noticed, but Neil Coffey has joined us. If you'd like to introduce him to the group since given his role.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Yes, Neil Coffey is our volunteer games director for Winter Games, has been with us for many years. In that capacity, also serves in other functions throughout the year. He's our venue director for swimming at summer games, etc. But a great resource, and he has joined tonight as well to say hello. So Neil, if you would like to say hello to the group.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. And as I'll echo what Steve just said, we are really excited for the upcoming games, and we welcome your participation and your input tonight and this coming weekend and a few days after. So thank you all.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate that. So again, like I said, the purpose of tonight's meeting is just to share some information with families and the competitors, and answer questions that you guys have through the chat function. But one of the things we really want to stress, continue to stress with athletes, unified teammates, family members, etc., is that your head of delegation, and what that means, you may hear an HOD, but that stands for head of delegation. And that person is in charge of your area or county program. They're there to be a resource and a leader for each of those programs attending the Winter Games. So that's the main person you'll go to at the games to ask questions, etc., as well as your head coach. So always check with them when you have questions. They're going to know almost as much as the staff and our management team. If not, they know how to get an answer quickly from those people. So again, just want to reiterate and stress that at the games, your main source of your main resource is your head of delegation or the leader of your program, and your head coach or others serving for those different sports from your county program, or what we also refer to as your delegation. So here's a few things we're just going to talk about or review or share with you tonight is just some updates and reminders about the games, general schedule. Again, the schedule here that you'll see, you want to make sure that you check with your head coach, because they have some other information as well, and they're in charge of making sure everyone's receiving that information and on time, etc. We'll show you some basic layouts of the facility at WISP, and talk about housing and meal services, some special events, including the opening ceremony. We'll reiterate what we always do in regards to coaching and what's allowed and not allowed at the event, and then some general information for families and spectators. And again, as we go through the webinar this evening, we'll address questions as they arise. So we are, again, very excited. We were at WISP for many years, a while ago, and last year was our first year back. I hope everyone who attended last year had a great experience. We have met with WISP, continue to meet with them and prepare for these games. Great staff. They've been working really hard to make sure as much as they can, they have snow where we need snow, and doing all the housing and meals and lodging and everything like that. So again, just another great partnership with them. In years past, time trials was a weekend or so before the Winter Games, but as we move back to WISP, the time trials are a part of Winter Games. They're not a separate event. The time trials are on Sunday, which you'll see on the schedule. And then from those results, places the athletes and teammates into their finals and award rounds on Monday and Tuesday. So for the most part, alpine skiing will look to start at 1 o'clock for their time trials on Sunday. And those are scheduled by county or area program. So again, check with your head coach if you haven't already had that information. Make sure you check with your coaches there. And then snowshoeing will be done by event, where alpine is done with different time slots for the different delegations. The opening ceremony will be in the same place last year in the big lodge area. It's called the McHenry Lodge of the WISP Resort, and that'll be on Sunday night. And like I said, the finals will start approximately 9:30 for alpine skiing on Monday and around noon for snowshoeing. But again, make sure you check with your coaches for the final schedule for that. I know one of the hot topics is always what's the theme of the dance. The theme of the dance is Magic on the Mountain. Where that came from is or at least I've been told, this is the 25th anniversary of Harry Potter. So that's where that theme kind of derived from, or where the crew got that thought process. So you don't have to dress up as Harry Potter. It's whatever. If you have an outfit, wizardry, magic kind of stuff, anything like that is absolutely fine. Just have fun with it. The event guide, if you were not aware of it, it has been on our coaches resource page, where here's the link to that. And again, that coaches resource page is designed for coaches primarily, but there is a lot of information on that, not just at Winter Games, but throughout the year, that is open to the general public. So family members, athletes, unified teammates, that's always a place you can go for some updated information and check on schedules and good information from that point. So here is a basic overview of Western Maryland. Most of us, I think, will be traveling from the eastern part of the state. Primarily, you'll take 70 west up to 68 through Cumberland, and then come down Route 219, where the signs say WISP Resort, kind of taking you through the town of Accident and McHenry to Deep Creek area. One of the things that we did mention to our heads of delegation and others is I just want to say, make sure you obey the speed limits, especially when you're coming off the highway coming into WISP. I'll just leave it at that. You should always obey the speed limits, but particularly at that in that realm when you get off of 68 coming down into WISP. So when you come down 219, it'll take you right down this road, if you can see where my cursor is, and then it'll take you right down into the WISP Resort, where there's a lot of parking here, and this is the main resort here. When I talked about the McHenry Lodge, where the meals and opening ceremony and dance will be, that's in this portion here where that arrow is pointing. And then this is also where the lodging will be for all delegation members. Okay.
Hey, Steve, I think we can note that our friends in Accident, the town of Accident, they have the speed limit drop very quickly from, I think, 55 down to 20 miles an hour. So just be aware that when Steve was referring to obey the speed limit, it can be a surprise if you're not used to going out there. And they certainly do. That's their choice for the safety of their community, and they do enforce it. So just be aware of that. Don't be surprised.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. Here's a little closer overview of the main Wisp Resort. Again, here's the McHenry Lodge where the meals will be served, the opening ceremony, the dance, and awards for both alpine skiing and snowshoeing will be in that area as well. We have our delegation members and management who will be housed on site. There's two housing areas of the resort. One is the inn or the lodge area of the resort, and the other one is the tower, kind of a typical hotel configuration at the tower. And then the inn is where the hallway comes down to lead into the McHenry Lodge. You'll see some parking out here. And again, we really stress that you obey and park in designated parking areas. We are not responsible for any infractions that you may incur in regards to parking illegally or outside of the designated spots for towing or anything like that. So here's kind of an overview of the map or the resort map. It shows you a lot of the trails for alpine skiing. It shows you where the snowshoeing competition will be. So where my cursor is here, that's where we were just talking about the hotel, where the dance and opening ceremony will all occur, okay, and the meals. Right off to your left, looking up to the mountain, is where the snowshoeing competition is scheduled to occur. That's the same place, if anyone went last year, the same place that it was last year will be the same place we're planning on having it this year. Again, I commend Wisp for blowing snow and having a lot of snow to cover the grass area where snowshoeing competition will be. And you'll see the slopes up here where the different levels and different events for alpine are hoping to be, but that is not definite. As early as last weekend, not this past weekend, the weekend before, we had a site visit at Wisp, and as you know, we can't control Mother Nature, and they were scrambling with some of their courses. And I'm guessing that some of these courses will be adjusted, but the Alpine management team is a great team. One of those members actually is on ski patrol at Wisp, and they're working really hard to make sure that they have the right slopes for the athletes and competitors and ready to go, even though it may change from this diagram. Okay, but again, that's when you look to talk with your head coach, and they'll make sure they get you to the right spot through the communication of the management team. Mike?
Yeah, sure. So just as a note, this came up in the meeting we had with snowshoeing coaches, and I think maybe with the HODs. They asked, why don't we do snowshoeing over by where the magic carpet is, which is off to the right? And quite frankly, there's just not the snow coverage. What Wisp is able to do for us, as Ken Schmidt noted in the comments, is they've stockpiled snow in that area for snowshoeing like they did last year. They'll be making more snow over the next several days. It's forecast is to be cold enough that they can make snow. And then they will push it into the area to cover for snowshoeing. That's why snowshoeing is being held there, because we know we can get a course there. Any of the other places that might be nice, if we had several feet of natural snow, where, because they can't necessarily blow it everywhere, that might be another viable option. But that's why we're there. And again, at that location, and it's a nice, very visible location as well.
And if you look at a Google map or I forget what they call it, the cameras that show the layouts of Wisp, if you look there now, it may look like there's all grass because, like Mike indicated, they have put a big pile of snow there in order to move that over to snowshoeing for our competition.
That's just one example of how they're a real partner and really care about our athletes and making this event a success. They don't have to do that. They're going out of their way to make that possible, much as our friends at Whitetail did as well for the various events we've held there. It's just, we have a really nice relationship with these resorts.
Yep, absolutely. So again, here's a basic schedule, if you will, for Sunday. Again, that's when everyone will arrive and have their team trial or time trials on Sunday. again, check with your coach for any time for arrival and practice sessions and warm-ups, making sure you get out to your courses and your competition venues in a timely manner and work with your coach. One correction here is the Chamber of Commerce is that actually will not be taking place. My apologies, I missed that in the slide review earlier today. But the opening ceremony will be around 7:30, and then we will have coaches meetings later that evening, and then we'll meet with the leaders of every program later that night. But again, we'll send out this slide deck. We'll put it on the coaches resource page as this, so you can refer to the schedules. But again, make sure you check with your head coaches and head of delegation. Mike?
Yeah, and just want to reiterate what Steve just said, not to be redundant, but this is a really good example of where we're giving you tonight and in the event guide some general information of when things will be held. Your coaches or your HOD might want you to arrive at a certain time that maybe is different from here, and they have their good reasons for that. So always go by what your HOD and your head coach is telling you, because they're managing everything for your county at this event. Okay, we're just giving you the general information that applies for the overall schedule.
Yep. And I'll go back here. As one of the things we talked about and shared with your coaches and your heads of delegation is the first meal that will be provided from the Winter Games will be dinner on Sunday. Lunches, the coaches and the delegation, your leaders know that lunch is on their own on Sunday. But again, those registered official delegation members or part of your team will have dinner on Sunday as the first official meal of Winter Games. We move into Monday, which again is exciting. That is our first day of the finals in the awards. So we'll get up early, we'll have breakfast. Coaches will get you guys out and share information from Sunday in regards to when your events will be on Monday, and things of that nature. So again, we'll have lunch and we'll have dinner, and then that evening, Monday, is when we have the athlete dance or the social, and then we have a couple follow-up meetings after that. For breakfast and dinner, starting on Sunday actually for dinner, but family members, and we'll talk about this later, but family members are not to be eating lunch or breakfast and dinner with the athletes and teammates, but they can join them for lunch, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then Tuesday is our second day of finals, another exciting day for great competition and awards and celebrations and sportsmanship. Again, we'll get up early, we'll have breakfast, get out to your competition venues, have a great day, have lunch and awards, and then everyone will head out home and enjoy your safe travels on the way home. And again, the great accomplishments that everyone had during the Winter Games. So we talked about the trials on Sunday. So this is what we have shared with the Alpine coaches. And again, if it says, as an example, what Mike was talking about earlier is Garrett County and Allegheny counties are scheduled to do their time trials at 1 o'clock. So that doesn't mean show up at 1 o'clock. That means that's when they're starting. So your coach may say, we need you here at 10:30 to make sure you have your equipment ready. We can do a little warm up, maybe get out and do 1 or 2 runs on the hill to get your snow legs ready to go, etc. So again, this is when the official time trials will occur. But again, check with your coach to make sure that you know when they need you there to be prepared for that. Okay. But Alpine will go till about 4:30, 4:45. If there's anybody on the call or on the webinar, I should say, who is in the events of Glide and Super Glide, want to make sure that you know that your time trials for those 2 events will be on Monday and the finals will be on Tuesday. Mike, is there something you'd like to add?
Actually, just for folks who maybe aren't aware, if this is their first Winter Games, can you give a brief explanation of why we do time trials? What's the purpose of them, and how the information is used for the competition?
Yeah, so the time trials are events where you'll run or you'll race in a similar competition or similar trails and slopes for alpine skiing and similar distances in snowshoeing in your finals. And what the time trials is we're all there, we're all have an equal playing field, if you will, and equal conditions. And we'll take those results from the time trials and we use those times to place everyone into their final divisions for Monday and Tuesday. So it gives us a really good way of judging or gaining feedback from the skill levels of the athletes and unified teammates to put them in fair divisions for their finals on Monday and Tuesday. So the snowshoeing time trials, as we said, they would start a little bit later on Monday with warm-ups around noon and then going through the time trials till about 5 o'clock to get back and get changed and things like that. So again, as we talked about on the previous slide, alpine skiing is done by counties or area programs, not by the events, although that is a part of it. But in snowshoeing, it's strictly by the different events, okay? So that one's not broken out by different counties and different programs. That's strictly done by what events the athletes are registered for. So the head of delegation or the leader of your teams will be the individuals who register or have registered everyone for the event. And then they will check in early on Sunday and gather a lot of information that we'll share with them, as well as different pieces of paperwork and things of that nature that they'll make sure that they get to the coaches with competition bib numbers and any adjustments in the schedule or the slopes and things like that. So they'll also pick up all the keys for everyone staying in the room. So really important that individually, like an athlete or a unified teammate or a family member who's bringing an athlete or something like that, you guys don't check in. You guys find your head of delegation or your head coach, and they'll let you know, hey, the room's not ready, or let's meet over here. But the registration process is only for that one or two people from the delegation or from your team, and they know who they are. So they'll come and check in for the whole team. So we don't need, or we don't want athletes or individuals or family members to come in to the control center to check in, okay? One of the things we also have shared with your leaders of your teams is that upon arrival, depending on when you get there, most likely the rooms won't be ready as far as checking into your room, getting your keys, taking your luggage to the room, that type of thing. So we do have a room designated for drop off of luggage and things like that while we're waiting to get into our rooms. So that's right there near the main check-in or the main lobby of the tower part of the resort. And again, your head coach and leader of your team knows where that is. So they'll share that information with you. So again, just make sure you're always checking with your head coach or the leader of your team to ask them, hey, where should I go? What do I do with my luggage? They'll be able to give you information and direct you to the right location. So for housing, once again, we have reserved the entire hotel and I should say the tower and lodge portion of Wisp Resort. Those are only for official delegation members from your teams. So we have the whole hotel, everything on the resort for rooms has been designated for officially registered members and our staff and management personnel. Unless some of your leaders of your team made other arrangements off-site, which is fine. They can do that if they wish. But everyone in the hotel on site will be an official registered delegation member. If there's any questions about that, talk to your leader of your team. One of the things we want to make sure that the athletes, and we've shared this with coaches and others, is be aware that because we've got the whole hotel booked, and obviously they have limited staff to help do daily checks and makeup of the room, housekeeping won't come to the rooms every day. So just be prepared for that, and know that if you can reuse a towel, if you don't need a new towel, I always hang mine up and use it twice at least before I get a new one. But they won't be making your bed. So just make sure you keep your rooms very clean and tidy, because housekeeping will not come to the rooms every day. Okay. We talked about the room keys for your hotel rooms. It's kind of like if you've ever been to another hotel, that's the credit card kind of swipe on the door, and your coach and your leader of your team will be given those cards, and they'll make sure that all the athletes and other people from the team get those keys and get to their rooms. There's also lockers for anybody who skis, that will have the lockers to place their boots, their poles, and your skis in those lockers. So we're not carrying those through the lobby, through the hotel, through the rooms. It's a little dangerous with a bunch of skis and everything coming through. So we want to make sure that you check with your coach or your leader of your team, and you can get those lockers for the Alpine competitors. Mike?
Just as a note there, Steve mentioned about the keys and all. Please know that your head of delegation and or your head coach, different delegations may handle them differently. Some may issue them to everybody. In some cases, they may hold on to them and have the coaches retain them. Any way is fine. It's how your head of delegation and your head coach wants to operate that. So don't be offended. Don't be upset if they don't give each individual person their individual keys. Again, they're responsible for everything that happens, and they'll make the decision that works best for their delegation.
Thank you, Mike. So I talked about the hotel being completely reserved. If there are any family members who haven't made reservations in the area, or you're looking to do so, just know that the Wisp Resort is fully booked and no rooms are available there, unless family members are part of the official part of the team. We know that we have some family members, whether it's aunts, uncles, moms, dads, cousins, brothers, etc., who are part of the official team coming in some capacity, but others, family members who are coming to just spectate and be a part of the games, there's no housing available there at Wisp. So now we'll go into food services. As we talked about, the first official meal is dinner on Sunday. And we'll talk with the team leaders if we need to designate different times for teams to come and eat. But again, the housing or all the meals will be served in that one same location there at Wisp in the McHenry Lodge. Same place where the dance will be. On Sunday, when we have dinner, then we move right into the opening ceremony. So it's going to be very important for everybody to have your dinner, clean up your table, and remove yourself so others can come and eat their meals in a timely manner. And you'll also note that when the dinner time ends, there's going to be a lot of movement of tables and some chairs and some setting up going on in that room to make sure we're ready for the opening ceremony. So again, vacate the tables as soon as you're done with your meal. We don't want you lingering and hanging out, if you will, and just chit-chatting or talking. We need you to eat, clean up, and move on so that we can get others in, and then again get ready for the opening ceremony. Same thing for Monday night when we have dinner in that big room, and then we'll have some cleanup and get ready for the dance. So again, the same thing for the meals. There is limited space there. So get your food, sit down, eat, clean up, and move on so that you open those tables up for others, and also allow time for us to set up for the other activities. Okay. As we talked about, family members can, for lunch only on Monday and Tuesday, you can go through the regular general public line at Wisp, or you can go to other restaurants and things of that nature in the area. And you can participate or have lunch with the competitors. But know that, again, please, once you eat, please leave, clean up, and make space available for others to come in and partake in their meals, okay? And again, for all the athletes and people on your teams, the way that you will go through the buffet line is you will have your credential or your name tag. And make sure you have that when you're going to any of the meals. Without your name tag, you may not get served. So you want to make sure you have your name tag when you go to any of the meals provided, okay? And again, just reiterating or reminding everyone that on Sunday, lunch is not provided through Special Olympics Maryland, but you can ask your coach or the leader of your team where we can get a meal or how are we getting lunch, okay? So as we talked about, no meals are provided to the family members from Special Olympics Maryland. We talked about you can go through the general public areas, go to the restaurants that are located there on WISP property, or there's a lot of other good restaurants and local establishments you can go to throughout the event. And that's been the case last year as well. Again, only credentialed delegation members are allowed there on breakfast and dinners in the general seating area. And then on lunch, families can come in, but for breakfast and dinner, family members will need to go somewhere else on property to consume their meals for breakfast and dinner. So we talked about the locker room or the lockers provided for skiing. Again, your coaches will know where your lockers are. And we also have rental forms where everyone needs to sign a rental form for anybody who is getting rental skis and things like that. So the coaches have been given those, and that does require a signature. So if there's any families on the call who have athletes or unified teammates who aren't their own legal guardian or are minors, you want to make sure you check with your coach so that you have signed off on that paperwork, okay? Again, we really need everybody who is in alpine skiing to store their equipment in those lockers. The opening ceremony, again, it'll be really tight and we'll have that turnover from dinner into opening ceremony on Sunday night. And there is limited seating. Again, just ask for your patience during that time. You will notice that when you come in, check with your coach or the leader of your team, and there will be designated seats for everybody from your team. It will say Allegheny County or Anne Arundel County or Garrett County reserve seating. So that's so we make sure that all of the teams have good seats for the opening ceremony, and make sure we have the aisleway for all of the teams bringing in their banners and things like that. Okay, so that'll be on Sunday, and that'll be about from 7:30 to 8:30, or maybe a little bit later, depending on how the ceremony goes. I want to kind of give you an idea of that time frame. One of the things we've had in the past is we ask for your cooperation and reminding your teammates and families and others that there are some good speeches and good information, and we want to make sure that everybody hears. So Elena Camacho is on the call tonight. She's one of our athlete leaders. She's going to be one of the athlete MCs for the opening ceremony. And we don't want a lot of chit chat and talking during the ceremony. Want to make sure that everybody is listening and paying attention to the speakers. And so that when it comes for your team to be announced, that you know, oh, here's my team. And that's when you can cheer. Other than that, we kind of like to keep it quiet so that everyone can hear what's being said during the opening ceremony. Okay. We talked about the theme of the dance. The awards, like I said, will be in that same place where we eat, and we have the opening ceremony and the dance. Last year, we did have 2 award stages, but we had one kind of general area, shared area for athlete and snowshoeing competitors to come and get prepared for their award ceremonies. We made a change this year, so it'll still be in the same big room, but Alpine will have their own check-in area and own award stage, and snowshoeing will be in a separate part of that big room on a different, kind of on different walls, if you will. But we want to make sure everyone knows there will be 2 separate awards areas, and it'll be very easy to figure that out as to where you're going, and your coaches will know that as well. There is a room that's kind of in the back part of that big lodge, and that's called the Whispers Room. During the dance, if anybody's tired or it's too loud or anything like that, that's where we call it our quieter room. That's where we'll have some board games and things like that for anybody who doesn't like the noise or needs to take a break or whatever. They can go to that room and kind of have a hangout where it's less noisy and more relaxed kind of thing there. One of the other things we want to make sure everyone knows is while we're there at WISP, the pool is closed. That's for safety reasons. There's no lifeguards or anything like that. So we have closed the pool for the winter games. So just want to make sure if you're looking at the hotel in WISP and you think, oh, I'll bring my bathing suit and I'll go to the pool. Well, you can bring your bathing suit, but you won't be going to the pool. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. So we appreciate your patience and cooperation there. So one of the big reasons we're all here is the competition, right? So we talked about the 2 separate awards areas, and the results from the competitions will be located in the McHenry Lodge, that big room where the awards will be. We're still finalizing exactly where the results will be posted, but there'll be one area for snowshoeing results and one area for alpine skiing results. One of the things we've asked your coaches and the leaders of your teams to do is make sure that someone is there during the award ceremonies. So once the competitors have received their awards, that there's a member from that team or family members to greet those athletes and competitors, congratulate them, and have a familiar face for them to direct them to their next event or next special occasion during the day, and where you can hang out, things like that. We have had some challenges in the past. When athletes come off of the courses or off their competitions and come into the awards area, they're led primarily by either coaches or our volunteers. And they go to a room or a piped off area that's called the staging area. It can be very, very hectic in those areas. And what really adds to the hecticness or the confusion is when we have other coaches or family members or spectators coming in to talk to an athlete or a competitor. Just know that will not be allowed. We need everyone to be respectful to the volunteers who are trying to prepare for the award ceremony. So once the athletes come off of their courses and are making their way to the staging area for awards, once they get in there, hey, good luck. We'll see you on the award stage, and kind of leave it at that. We'd really appreciate your cooperation with that. And one of the other things that Mike Sarnowski has led the charge with is as soon as we are available or as soon as we are able to, we get the results from the team or from the time trials as well as from the finals on that coach's resource page that we shared the link with you earlier tonight. Sometimes it can be as early as the evening from that day's competition. We're not going to promise that, but usually you can bet on it'll be up there within a day or two of that event, barring any loss of connection from the internet and things of that nature. But our team has been really good about posting that. But regardless, if you're not able to check the results while you're at Winter Games, once you get home on Tuesday, I would be almost guaranteeing that you'll have them by Thursday, but hopefully by Tuesday or at least by Wednesday, you can check that resource page and look at your official and final results. So one of the things here is spectator areas and family members who and anybody else who's coming to support the competitors at the games. In the past, there have been what we have called walking passes that will allow you to walk up a little bit on the snow if you're watching Alpine and things like that. That's not the case anymore. But there will be designated spectator areas. Again, check with your head coach. Hey, where can we watch the event? And they'll be able to help you out and direct you to those certain areas. Be prepared that, again, we talked about the different snow slopes for alpine skiing, and some of those may need to change based on the weather and the availability of the slopes. So there may be some challenges for viewing the competitions for alpine. Not so much with snowshoeing, but we want to make sure that you're aware of that, that there may be some challenges to view some of the courses for snow or for alpine skiing.
Steve, can I just add in that while there may be challenges for spectating the events, that's done so we can find the best race courses for the alpine athletes. We try to find locations where we can have both the competition and have spectators available, but given conditions, there may be some cases where we're looking out for where can we best have that competition that's most appropriate for the skiing athletes, and that's why that has to happen sometimes.
Yeah, nice addition, Neil. I appreciate that. When we talk about the snowshoeing location, you saw that there's going to be some good views from that, from the patio area of the big Wisp Resort, and maybe not so much out by the actual course. It depends on how much snow we have, and it's going to be narrow. We want to make sure that the athletes have their space, our officials and our course crew have all the space they need. One of the things, there is some limited seating out on that patio, which gives you a very good view of the snowshoeing venue. But if you want to bring your own camping chair or something like that to make sure you have a seat, you're welcome to do so for that. Okay. Again, we talked about the meals already. Families are on their own at the Wisp Resort, and spectators and supporters. And again, if you want to purchase lunch through the general public line and sit with your competitors or friends, you can do so for lunch only. But again, we ask that you respect and eat, clean up, and vacate so that everyone can get in and out in a timely manner. So again, we talked about the narrowness of the course. Again, we're hoping that weather and Mother Nature provides some cold weather and allows Wisp to continue to make snow for the snowshoeing course. We will mark a spot and have some areas there for the viewers or for the supporters of the snowshoeing athletes. But again, highly recommend you bring your own chair, things like that. Last year, we had staging for the athletes in that patio area, and we found some challenges with that. So we have moved the staging for the athletes for snowshoeing closer to the course where we had the tent last year. We've added an additional tent for athletes to be staged to get ready for their events. But then again, after their events, they'll come into the Wisp Resort to collect their awards.
Hey, Steve, just one note or one comment with folks bringing their own chairs and using this space. Just please keep in mind, we need to keep things safe and we need to be able to have people move around. So as need be and, get to where they need to be. So if you do bring your own chair, just know that we may need to ask you to move it from what might be your preference to be seated. Sometimes that's right in the way. So just please be flexible with that. And we'll look forward to having you out there. But I can tell you, watching from the deck, I watched a lot of that from the deck last year. It is a pretty good view.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we didn't have on the slide deck here, but I know for other outdoor events, sometimes there are pop-up tents and things like that allowed. At this time, we request that you do not bring any pop-up tents on your own, especially on the patio or anywhere else at the facility. As an example, we have a 10 by 10. It's basically the size of a pop-up tent that we have a vendor bringing that's holding it down with huge cement blocks. There's a reason for that, because it can get very windy and it can be very risky with anything blowing those tents over, breaking windows at the Wisp Resort, hurting other people there, damaging cars, things of that nature. So don't bring your tent, because if we see one go up, we'll immediately have you remove it. and nobody wants to carry a tent all the way up there and then have to carry it all the way back to their car. So no tents allowed, okay? We talked about the weather. It can be windy, it can be cold, it can be warm, it can be raining, it can be sun shining, it can be any of the above. So make sure that everybody comes with that in mind. Be prepared for wind, rain, cold, warmth. And we always talk to our coaches and everybody about making sure you stay hydrated. You're drinking a lot of water and things like that to keep you hydrated and healthy. In the summertime, you probably do that on your own because it's so hot. Sometimes in the cold weather, you don't think about it as much, but it's just as important in the cold weather to make sure you stay hydrated. So, and remind each other, remind your teammates and fellow athletes and teammates that, hey, how you feeling? When's the last time you had a drink of water? We want to make sure that everyone's at their top game to be able to compete, okay? And with that, we talked about be prepared for the weather. I think everyone knows, but I think it's worth mentioning. Layers are great. Like right now, I have a vest on, I have a long sleeve shirt, I have a t-shirt under that. You can always take layers off if you get warm, but if you don't have enough layers, you could be cold. So check with your coach about the weather and make sure that you have a proper clothing ready for the day ahead. Okay, here's when we talk about the coaching at the games. So obviously the coaches are the coaches for the athletes and competitors, right? They know when they can coach and when they can't, and there are specific times when they can coach. As an example, for alpine skiing, they can talk to the athletes and competitors when they're on the ski lift going up to the start gate. But once the competitors get in that start gate, they're not allowed to coach anymore. They have been coaching throughout the season. They've worked with the competitors. There's no coaching once they start the race. And that's not just for coaches. That's for other teammates coaching, family members, spectators, anybody else. If you have any questions, you can ask one of your coaches. But the challenge here is we are trying to make a fair competition for all athletes. And the officials will be watching for this during the course and during the events. We haven't had much challenges here lately, but in the past we have had, and I know everybody is probably wanting to be helpful. But again, there are some violations that could cause a competitor to be disqualified. And we'll talk about that here in just a second, okay? So what is coaching? Once they start the race or they get into their start gate or they get into the, after the staging area, they're making their way to the snowshoeing course. That's when the coaching, prohibited coaching kind of begins, okay? So what is coaching? Coaching is kind of given instructions. So it's like, turn left, now turn right, put your pole down, put your skis more downhill, get your butt back, that type of thing. Those are instructions where the officials, if they see that, they'll make a note and we'll have a discussion and hopefully not have to disqualify anybody. But also like running alongside of anyone and pacing athletes for snowshoeing and things like that. Those are violations of the coaching principles of Special Olympics. Again, the main purpose is to provide a fair competition for everyone. Things that are encouraged are things like, you're doing great. Keep it up. Go, go, go. You're doing great. Hooray, things like that. It's a competition. We want to hear people cheering. We just can't have anybody giving instructions and actual coaching tips, if you will, while the athletes are in their field of play and competing, okay? Here are some of the consequences if we see any of those violations occur. So, like I said, the officials will be watching for that, along with many other things the officials watch for, but they are aware to be watching for that, and so are the coaches. But if in the official's judgment, or in the official's mind, somebody is coaching, the athlete or partner could be disqualified, like we talked about. So the person, if we can identify who was doing the unofficial violation of the coaching, there's two situations that will arise. For the first time, be required to leave the race course for the duration of the event. The second offense, you could be ejected from not just that race course during the event, but from the Winter Games. And again, this relays to spectators, family members. If I was competing and Mike was my teammate, he's not allowed to tell me when I'm on the course, hey, get ready to go left. You got a big turn ahead. Put your body to your left. Put your pole down. That kind of stuff. Because even though he's my teammate, he can't give me instructions and coaching either. I've been training, and this is for me to showcase the skills that me and my teammates and my coaches have learned throughout the season and showcased during the competition. Mike, anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, just one thing to clarify, because I think some folks may see this, particularly over at snowshoeing, but I'm sure a similar thing could happen with alpine. There may be situations where the officials are giving instruction or shouting instructions. An example may be for some of the longer races that start on what's called a waterfall start, which is sort of a curved line. They may shout to some athletes, hey, you can go into the center, you can move in. That's okay for that official to say that. They're doing it, and they'll do that evenly and equally for all the athletes who are participating. Don't be confused by that and think that you can then shout similar instructions there. That's part of the role of the official, and they're trained to do it in an equitable manner and such. So like I say, I know it happens at snowshoeing for good reason, and probably a similar type of thing may happen at alpine. Don't let that confuse you.
Thank you for that, Mike. We will have medical, as we do with all of our events. For the competition venues, the primary medical personnel is the ski patrol from WISP. They are the medical experts, especially for alpine on the hill. We will also have medical, not only ski patrol that can respond to snowshoeing, but we also have our own medical personnel that will be at WISP Resort for overnight emergencies and things of that nature. You're the leaders of your team. We'll have what room numbers those medical people are in for overnight emergencies, and they'll also have contact phone numbers for other individuals in case an emergency occurs. If it is something very, very immediate of a need, 911 can always be called. Okay. One of the things we always ask for is feedback. So athletes, family members, coaches, anyone who is at the event, you'll see the evaluation survey. That's where we want your thoughts about what you thought about the event. We want to hear things that you really liked, so that if a lot of people liked it, we'll make sure we continue to do it. If there's something that you think we could do better, please let us know. And if you have a suggestion on how we could do it better, that's even more helpful. Because sometimes if you say, hey, you can move snowshoeing over there. Well, how could we do that? And why would we do that? Things like that. So we really need your feedback and want it. So again, we want to hear what you liked and what things we can improve upon, and also how can we improve on those? What are your ideas? Okay. Here's the coach's resource page once again, the link there that has information for you. And one of the things we always ask, we talked about during the meals, make sure you clean up after yourselves. We have to tell ourselves that. We have a control center where we eat, and we have our bottles of water, and I've had to tell my teammates on the management and staff, clean up after yourselves. At the end of every night, I'm cleaning up people's leftover trays and water bottles. So please make sure, not only in your rooms when you check out, but also when you're having meals or any other time you're around the area. If you're outside on the patio watching, make sure that we clean up after ourselves. As we talked about several times, WISP is a very gracious host for the Winter Games and a partner. We want to show them how good we respect their property, and we don't want to leave trash around, things of that nature. So just make sure we clean up after ourselves at the end of every meal, at the end of each day, and especially when you're checking out of your rooms. We also ask, as we thank you guys for being here tonight and everything you've done, whether you were training or supporting the competitors throughout the season, we thank you. We'll thank you if we have some time there at the event as well, if we see your faces. But we ask the athletes and family members and spectators to thank the volunteers. They've given up their days, hours of whether it was work or vacation or a weekend with their families to come out and volunteer for the athletes and the competitors and everyone here to make a great event. And a lot of times they just want a simple thank you. So if you see the volunteers, make sure you thank them for coming out and supporting Special Olympics, and thank the officials. They're giving up their time as well. And also the WISP staff, as we talked about, they're there. They've had, many meetings with us for the last 8 months, taking a lot of time out of their busy schedule to build snow for snowshoeing, to make the rooms available, to make sure all the housing is taken care of, to order all the food for everyone, to move all the equipment around, the tables and chairs for the dance, the opening ceremony, the meals, the preparation for the meals. So we want to again thank them for having us and clean up after ourselves so that they see how much we appreciate them having us there, so that they can say, hey, Special Olympics is awesome. We want them to come back. They're so thankful and they're great people. We want to have them back again and again. So we just want to thank everybody that we can. And again, thanking them for just supporting our event. So again, here's kind of, we've talked about it throughout the session this evening. But if you have questions, first person you can go to is either your head coach or the leader of your team or the head of delegation, and then also your assistant coaches, other support personnel from your team, the leaders of your team. Again, if they don't have the answer, they know how to go up the chain to find the answer and get that back to you.
Steve, one comment on that, if you go back to that slide, and then we do have some questions in the chat. Everyone at this point should know who your head of delegation is and who your head coach is. If you don't, hopefully you know who at least one of your coaches is. Check with them to make sure you know who the people are who are overseeing and leading your delegation there. So you make an assumption everybody knows who their head of delegation or HOD is, but make sure that you do. So Steve, a couple questions here, and between you, me, and Neil, hopefully we can answer all of them. Simple one, merchandise. Are we slotted to do merchandise there?
Yeah, good question. And I saw that on the slide and I didn't touch on that, my mistake. This year we are not having a family hospitality area or selling merchandise, although there is a slight possibility we may have some merchandise. We're not planning on it right now. We are down a couple of people, and those individuals who usually do that are not available this year. If there is somebody who steps up from a management team, or we're able to find somebody, we may have a few pieces of merchandise from the dunk and some other events throughout the year, but at this time, don't plan on it.
Right. And so, and specifically for Carolyn's question is, there wouldn't be there's nothing specific to Winter Games that we would have with that. Then Carol was asking about an improvement to the meals in terms of some nutritional value. And Carol, yes, we did. I can't promise it's going to meet your specific requests, but we did work with WISP. We added some significant increase, quite frankly, to what we're paying for the meals. And so I think you should see some improvement with that as we go. And then Ken had a question related to coaches on the course. Specifically, if coaches are at the top of the course during time trials, will they be allowed to ski down and ride up with the athletes? So Ken, they will not be able to ski down alongside the athletes as they're doing their time trial, but they will be able to go down before the athlete skis and meet them at the bottom. Neil, maybe this is for you, because I have to be honest, I don't recall. Will they be able to ride back up on the lift with their athletes back to for their second run?
Yes, the coaches are the ones who are doing the escorting for the athletes at Alpine, Mike. So absolutely. So the way that will work is the coaches will make sure the athletes report as directed, get everyone set, and then the course officials at the starting area of the Alpine race course will let the coaches know when the course is clear enough, and they usually let the coaches go through in a group. So depending upon the arrival time and how the event is running, there may be some situations where a coach may not, may arrive, drop off an athlete, may have to wait a couple minutes before he or she is allowed to go through not run the course, but to go down and wait at the bottom of the course. So
yeah, thank you, Neil. I think it probably was a function of the fact that we had so few trails last year that there was like a big stack up, and the folks were doing their best job to try to get people through, get time trialers through. And I think, some of the judges, or some of the coaches just, ended up standing out. Well, when do we get to go down? Because our people are down there now. So
yes. And the officials are aware that they need to send people through. And we'll make sure of that. And the other part is because it's the width of some of the terrain, there's really not a lot of space to let people go through. That's not race course.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. That's a safety issue.
But that's absolutely something that I'll make sure we also remind the starters, the course officials, that we need to get people through, because they're trying to get everyone through, because they're minding the schedule. But Ken, that's an absolutely good point. We need to make sure that we get coaches at the bottom to collect the athletes to bring them back up for the next run or such. But that being said, make sure that we as coaches let athletes know, where to wait at the end of a race, who's going to meet them, because there may be a situation where if the athlete goes before the coaches are sent through, the athlete should know, here's where I'm waiting. I'm going to wait until coach, this person is available to come get me.
Right. One other note with that also, and again, this is something your coach will work out with the athletes and partners for the time trials and such. For each course and for each event in Alpine, there's approximately an hour's inspection and actually be skiing the course, but they can go down and take a look at it, and that would be an excellent time to indicate, okay, and here's where I want you to wait when you finish the course. That said, again, work with your coach, your head coach, and he or she will determine when you need to get there. Neil, is there anything that would be useful to athlete or family members specifically about course inspections, or just leave that to the head coach beyond what I just said?
I would leave that to the head coach.
Great. Okay.
And sorry, gentlemen. Course inspection is open before the time trials start or the racing starts. So we would be up there, before whenever the first group was on the course. Is that correct?
That is correct. The course should be set about an hour before the start of time trial or competition for you as a coach to take your athletes through, just to look at the course. And it's you cannot run 2 consecutive gates as part of that inspection. So again, going back to what Steve was talking about,
right,
coaching and disqualification, that is grounds for disqualification, is running the course
right
during that inspection time period.
Excellent.
Again, that's something, work that out with your coach. Okay. And I realize Ken is wearing a couple hats, so with the delegation. So I don't see any other questions in the chat. So if anybody has one, put it in real quick. We'll give you another minute or so. And while we're doing that, see if anybody has any more. But Steve, if you want to wrap
I
up.
think while we're waiting on any questions come through the chat, athletes and unified teammates on the webinar this evening, we really thank you for your dedication. We know it has been challenging to get to maybe on some on-snow trainings for alpine and on-snow training surely for snowshoeing. But we thank you for your dedication, your work ethic to be prepared and be ready to bring your best to the Winter Games and show off your talents. Family members and others who, like Ken, are wearing multiple hats. We thank you as well for your dedication and support of Special Olympics at your county level and area level, and everything you do to support not Special Olympics there, but also the athletes and the other teammates from your teams. And again, we thank you for joining us tonight. We hope that the information shared tonight gives you a little bit more information than maybe you have seen before. But we hope you found it valuable to join us this evening. We feel it important to share information with family members and athletes as well, even though I know a lot of you get a lot of information from your coaches and others, but we do feel that this is something we want to share with you as well. We also wish you good luck in your final days of training and getting fit and stretching and making sure you're ready to go. And we wish you all the best in your time trials and your final events. So with that, Mike, I will turn it back over.
I'd reiterate all the thank yous. I had mentioned in a couple of the previous webinars, I've been involved with Winter Games, either as a staff member or as a volunteer for over 40 years. Absolutely my favorite Special Olympics competition, and looking forward to seeing everybody, and thank you to everybody for really making your athletes ready, working with your coaches, working with your local area programs, and athletes yourselves for practicing and getting ready for what we hope will be an exceptional time frame there. We did get one more question or one more request from Carol from Hartford, that if we do need to change trails, if we could possibly give that in writing. And Carol, one thing that you should know, we are either are or have collected the cell numbers for all the head coaches, and we'll be texting them should changes be made, as well as that. But we can also look at having some handouts as time permits. Not going to make enough of them to give to all 400 people that are there, and obviously that's not really what you're asking, but to have multiple copies per county available, and we just need to figure out distribution, possibly from the awards area or something like that. But yeah, we certainly can do better with that, so thank you for the suggestion. And that's it. Again, looking forward to seeing everybody in about just under a week. And yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Adam.
Hey,
Good.
question. I was looking at the thingy sign, and I was thinking about, where's Jim Schmutz? We need a thingy guy.
Jim will be there. Jim's got to take care of everything for Special Olympics, so he couldn't be with us tonight. But he'll definitely be up there for Winter Games. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. With that, seeing no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording. There we go.